So hi everyone, my name is Stephen Bucher. I am a product manager on the PowerShell team, and I'm here to talk about some shell enhancements. Some of the things that we've implemented on the PowerShell team that can really help you enhance your interactive console experience in the shell of PowerShell. Um, so, uh, So I kind of wanted to first start talking at a high level about enhancements and expectations and assistance to kind of give people a better idea of how we're approaching enhancing your shell experience. Now, of course, first and foremost, AI is top of mind right now. ChatGPT, OpenAI, they're all the rage, they're all the hype, and have proven that artificial intelligence can be an extremely powerful tool. I mean, even just as it is today, I've used it here and there for debugging PowerShell issues or asking it to write me some PowerShell scripts, and that's great. But it's still got a lot to learn and get better at. And I think my stance on AI is I think it's going to be a vital tool for development. I think it's going to be kind of, people are starting to slowly integrate it into their daily work. I hear a number of folks. Does anyone use it today? Any kind of sort of AI tools in their daily work? Just raise a hands. Here and there, if you need a problem. I'd love to talk to you about it more. It's an interesting new experience that has never been out there before. And so I kind of believe, whether it's going to be in your shell or not, people are going to want to use it. And so, however, I think there's a different kind of side to AI that I think not too many people are talking about, is the expectation for assistance that it's going to drive. And so we have AI in every part of our technology world today. I mean, think about typing in a URL. You'll get the last history time. If you even type in the name of the repo in GitHub, it will take you to that GitHub repo if you're a frequent viewer of some of the GitHub repos. Or even, lots of mail clients nowadays have very simple AI tools to help you autocomplete very common phrases such as, thanks very much, or best, sincerely, that kind of thing. They're slowly starting to get integrated into our world without necessarily us recognizing it or getting taught it. It just kind of is slowly becoming there. But when that's taken away, it can be very, very disruptive. I mean, just a while ago, I was trying to email someone, and I had to alphabetically go down all the email people in my clients instead of someone named Michael who I emailed quite often. I kind of want that kind of assistance in my life. And so I think the advent of AI today is going to start accelerating this kind of expectation everywhere in technology. And I'm not saying necessarily that AI is needed in all of these tools. It can just be a different level of assistance that helps you quickly and more enhance your experience to be more efficient where you are. And so, talking about that, we're committed to increasing assistance in the shell, whether it be AI powered or not. We think there's a kind of a spectrum of assistance that there can be where, on one side, it's super ChatGPT, it knows everything you're thinking, it just knows everything. But on the other side, it's like simple tab completion. Like, this is the spectrum of assistance I'm thinking about. And I think there's a lot of room in the middle that we can work on to help enhance your interactive experience. So that's kind of where I'm thinking and how we're trying to design tools around PowerShell, the shell, to help enhance your interactive console experience. And so ultimately, we're also trying to design them in a non-disruptive and a very helpful way so that it's not like just completely breaking your workflow. It's similar to what I was saying earlier with like the URL stuff, the kind of assistance that's there, but you don't really notice it's there until you notice it's gone. And so that's kind of the natural assistance that I'm trying to design these tools around such that they can enhance your experience without you even really noticing. So first, I want to talk about PowerShell Predictive IntelliSense as one of the enhancements that we're doing. And we hinted at this in today's State of the Shell demo, but I wanted to dive a little deeper into it, as well as show off a number of improvements that we've made in the past year to them. So if you aren't familiar, PowerShell Predictive IntelliSense is a way to enhance your shell experience that tries to predict what you're next going to type. And so it was built in order to accelerate and enhance your interactive experience. It's available in PS Readline 2. The latest version of PS Readline 2.26. Which is a module shipped with PowerShell, and it provides a number of other enhancements that I'll be talking about a little later in this presentation. We have two main types of predictors. We have history predictor, and then we have plugin predictors. So history is for acceleration. It uses your history in your session to best suggest what next might come as you're typing. Plugins is an extensible model, but it's more for enhancement where it can predict something that you've never ever typed before. So we'll talk about both of those in a second here. So history predictors, like I said, it kind of fills from your history that matches the characters being typed. It is supported everywhere PowerShell is supported, so this includes Windows PowerShell and PowerShell 7. Both include history, and it is now turned on by default in both of these experiences. So you may have noticed it yourself, but if not, if you see kind of the grayed out version, that's history predictors being on by default in the latest experience. And it is persistent across sessions. There's also a get history command that only shows your current session history, but this one is persistent across your different sessions, so you don't have to worry about closing your PowerShell window and that sort of thing. And so you'll notice this a lot in today's demo, and you saw it in State of the Shell. It's honestly fantastic for demos, so you don't fat finger any sort of commands. And so plugin predictors is when it gets really, really cool. It is extensibility for predictors. So plugin predictors are PowerShell modules that subscribe to the command predictor interface in PowerShell that allows them to give suggestions as you're typing. And so, however, this is only available in PowerShell 7.2 plus, and again in the latest version of PS Readline. It is also defaulted in PS Readline 2.26, but there's no modules imported yet. So you have to import the modules, you have to download the modules that have these kind of capabilities off of the gallery, and then import them, and then keep them imported, say, in your profile, so that they're persistently there. Okay. All right, let's go over to a demo. Enough talk about this. Give me 1 second just to switch over. Okay, can you see my screen? Fantastic. Okay, and let me know, just call out if it is a little too small. I will try to, yep. Is that a little better? Okay, so first off, how do you enable these stuff? So like I said, it's enabled by default, so you typically won't have to use these commands, but if you want to enable them or disable them, you can set PS Readline option predictor source to history. We have 3 options here where you can do history and plugin, or none, or actually just plugin as well. So these are kind of the different permutations you can do with that. For this demo, I'm going to have both of them enabled. I'll just stop there and start it again. And you can see here, it also still works in the VS Code terminal as well. There's a number of, actually, you know what? For this, I'll switch over here, just because I think it will be a little bit better to see. But another thing we showed off in today's State of the Shell is the list view. So currently, as I'm typing, this is what we call inline view. So it's a grayed out version, just the single line completion. But this might not be exactly what you want. And so if you want to see a variety of different options, you can press F2, and you can now see the different options available to you from different predictors. And you can see there's 10 right now defaulted, and the first 3 will be from history predictors, and then the remaining will be from any plugins you have. However, if you only have history enabled, you'll show 10 history suggestions that way. And in the right, you'll see the source of where they're coming from, history, and then I have AZ predictor, which I'll talk about shortly here, as a pretty cool plugin predictor. You can also do a lot of customizability to these predictors, and so we can change some of the colorings for it to change the inline to be a different kind of color that may be more visible. So if I do something like this, you can see, well, I got to go back to inline view. Oh wait, this is not green. my comments are wrong. We'll do magenta. That's a little bit more striking. Oh, did I miss? Yep, fat fingered it. So now you can see it's magenta, the list view. You can also do a number of other customizability. So set, I'm going to use this. I think I have it. Set PS readline option. Oh, maybe I have it on my other machine. Hang on. Oops. Here we go. So we can also show some different colors, such as the list prediction. And so this changes stuff to be, instead of the default dark yellow, it will change your predictor source to be green. So that's just something else I wanted to show off. Now, of course, so plugin predictors. So like I said, plugin predictors are PowerShell modules you can import. And so it's pretty simple to install them. So one I'm going to show off primarily is the az.tools.predictor. So you can install this just by doing install module az.tools.predictor and then import it like that. And then all you'll have to do to enable it is to enable az.predictor. And if you do all sessions, it will save it to your profile. Oh, maybe I don't. And so the main thing that AZ Predictor provides is a more intelligent way to suggest AZ-specific commandlets. And so anything in the az.star suite of modules, it will try to predict more longer views, longer suggestions of AZ commandlets. And so you'll see here that I can look, if I do set-az, I just type set-a, then z, it will try to fill out not just the commandlet, but the parameters and the parameter values to help you with discoverability of the wide variety of AZ commandlets out there. There's over 4,000 AZ commandlets out there, and it can be very hard to remember exactly how to use them, what parameters are required, or just typical use cases for these commandlets. And so this is using a machine learning model. This came out a little over a year ago and is contextually aware as well. So sometimes as you type your resource name, it will autofill that resource name into the future. It's all locally done on Box and helps you enhance your discoverability. One also really cool thing about this is now default in CloudShell. So if you are in CloudShell, this is one of the tools shipped with CloudShell. So you will have AZ Predictor enabled by default in CloudShell. So as you are in the portal working with your resources in CloudShell, you can use AZ Predictor to help enhance your experience there. So that's a pretty cool announcement since this. Jason's very happy about that. So we're pretty excited about that. Another cool thing I want to highlight is the completion predictor. This is a plugin predictor that the PowerShell team has built. It was built by our and all of this stuff has been built by our engineer Dongbo Wang, who is actually here. Why don't you just put your hand up? He's here for my moral support and also to help answer questions towards the end. So we would love to talk to you guys about any suggestions you might have. So the completion predictor uses tab completion to help enhance your prediction experience. So I should have it imported already, but just in case I don't. So say, I have, here you go. So here's an example. So as I'm starting to type the parameter in, get child time, just any arbitrary commandlet, it will populate the possible parameters from this commandlet. So this is great, especially if you kind of want a hint for tab completion. It will help kind of get you that way and explore it in the same predictor experience. However, yeah, I think that's it on that. Okay. Let me just go back to my slides. Covered some of this. Oh, I will do a shout out. I do want to do a shout out to some of the awesome community predictors that have been published. There's a great PNP PowerShell predictor out there. There's another one called PowerType, a directory predictor that is aware of your directory and the folders in your directory structure. It's pretty awesome. And there's many, many more. If you just search in the PowerShell gallery predictor, you'll find a good number of different predictors themselves. And so let's talk about some improvements. So we recently released a PS Readline 2.3 Beta 0, and it has a number of awesome improvements that I'll hop into a demo here for, because I think it'll be just more fun to do it that way. So, oh, here we go. Oh, come on. Is it working? There we go. Okay. Let me just change this back real quick. Okay, so right now I have the latest version. I have PS Readline 2.3 Beta 0 installed. And the first thing that you might have noticed is when I was showing the completion predictor, you notice that the AZ predictor just went away. It was just poof, it was gone. There was no AZ predictor there, and we kind of noticed that this was a problem. If you started to have multiple predictors in your screen, you wouldn't see that many. And so we implemented a scrollable list view now. So so let's do this. I'll do the same, get child item. Oh wait, let me make sure I have this enabled. Set. Stream plugin, new AZVM. Let's see, will this work? Oh, sometimes AZ predictor doesn't like to cooperate with me. Get AZVM. And then if I do this, oh, you know what I didn't do? Silly me. I forgot to import the completion predictor. So I have to be on another session since I can't have kind of easily switch between the two versions of PS Readline. So if I do new get AZVM, oh, there we go. Sometimes the timeout, it gets a little fuzzy with the tab completion. So say I'm using an AZ commandlet, and I don't know what the parameters are, and I want to use the completion predictor, and I also want to use the AZ predictor, and I also want to use the history predictor. Well, now we've enabled you so that you can have a scrollable list view. So as you see here, as I start scrolling down, I am selecting different options, and then seemingly I'm at the end. However, I can keep going. It's pretty cool, right? So, and once I'm at the end, it will wrap around back to the top. So it's just like a typical kind of scrolling view. And you'll notice something special too about this UI is we've added this thing we call a metadata line at the very top here. And so this helps you navigate and make sure you know where you are with the scrollable list view. And so it gives you, where the index of where you're at currently, the total number of predictors available, so that you can know that, oh, I'm at the end, or no, I'm not. We also have the sources and the number of suggestions from particular predictors. So you can see history just has 1 here. AZ predictor has 5, and I'm indexing through the 5. Then I get to the completion, and then it will show it that way. And so that's pretty awesome. So now it kind of helps you get more predictors into your experience. And one thing I should note, too, is the ordering of it. So history currently is still going to be on top into the order, but then the remaining ones will be based on the import order you do in your profile. So that's why completion predictor is after AZ, because I had just imported it. And so you can configure this order in your profile if you say import AZ above completion predictor and so on. That currently chooses the ordering of predictions. Another cool thing that I want to show off is there we go, is the adjustable view. So, let me just get my screen up. So one thing we heard is if you have your window too small, list view won't render. It will just fail silently. And so we want to account for different terminal heights And this is especially true for Cloud Shell, where the Cloud Shell height by default when you first open it up is too small for the 10 initial suggestions. And so now if I say I reduce my window height to something smaller, I think this will work here, and I go back to list view, you'll see it now adjust to that size. So this previously wasn't incorporated, and this is now makes using predictors and list view in Cloud Shell a lot easier and a lot more accessible for folks. So another thing that's a little harder to demo is we worked on deduplication of prediction results. So we're noticing that AZ Predictor was actually so smart that it was starting to, it could do more than just AZ commandlets. It can start doing some of the more common commandlets that you might have, such as like experimental feature or get path or get child item or whatever. And so in the list view, it was starting to kind of clutter your screen with duplicated suggestions. So history would have it because you would just run this very common commandlet. AZ Predictor would have it as well. And so we didn't want that. And so we have incorporated deduplication that will now take out the duplicated result and have history kind of be your main fallback, and such that history will be the first one that kind of can help you assist and accelerate your interactive experience. Okay, I think. Oh, and of course, we have done a bunch of stability improvements to PS readline. We are really focused on increasing the stability of PS readline so you won't have any crashing during your interactive experience with PowerShell. And here's just another GIF of kind of the adjustable. And it's great too, the scrollable works as well in the adjustable, so you don't get restricted by the number of predictions. It's purely, everything will be available to you. It will just be adjustable. Okay. So another quick shout out to kind of creating your own predictor. We created some amazing docs last year that include step-by-step instructions in how to create a predictor yourself. It shows pretty straightforward instructions on how to create a simple hello world predictor. You can find it at aka.ms/pspredictordoc. Or if you just search how to create a predictor, it's pretty high up there in the Google search returns and stuff. So before I move on to the next thing, any questions currently about predictors? Yeah.
In general, a couple quick things. So first off, like that scrollable thing that was in the beta.
Yes.
Page down.
Page down.
Once you do it, they're going to ask for all these keys, right?
Yes. So we do have page down. We have Dongbo. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's shift page down to get to the next the first prediction of the next predictor. And then page down will page you down 10 slots. Is that correct?
There are two kinds of page down. One is simply page down. They're going to go like 10, or like, yeah, they're going to go like 10. But there's another one, control page down. It's basically moving to the next source.
Yeah, control. That's.
So there are three ways actually to navigate.
So let me see if I can show that off.
Support on Windows PowerShell. That's just basically history. Is that going to act pretty much? All your examples were like, oh, you start with the verb. But I mean, if I'm typing just part of it's going to act just like Control R did, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it works similar to Control R.
Windows PowerShell, you still get the list view
Windows PowerShell, you do get the list view,
here.
yes, but it would just be history.
Only history, right?
Only history, yes. So let's see. Oh, well, actually, I don't have a page up and page down key. Silly me. Trust me, it does work, yes.
The dedupe of the history list, is that something you can turn off and on?
Currently, it isn't, but that's good feedback. So we could add a configurability for that. It was very few and far between that we started noticing it, but something that we thought would be good to get ahead of before we started getting just lots of the same suggestions.
Yeah, and so when you say the duplication part, that's really just history founded, so I don't want Azure.
Yes, so the question was around deduplication. I keep forgetting I have to repeat the questions for the recording, but basically imagine if, in this example, say I already have run get azvm-status in my history, and it was in my history. So it would show up in history first and then just get removed from AZ Predictor, but AZ Predictor would then get the next prediction there that it would provide. Cool. So let's move on to some other enhancements how much time do I have? Oh, I got plenty of time. So let's talk about something new. Let's talk about another thing that we're investing in for enhancing your shell experience, something that we're calling feedback providers. Now, this is, like I said, something brand new and something that we're still working in development, but we wanted to share it as it aligns with our goals for enhancing your shell experience, as well as we want to get early feedback about this and how we can best improve it to make sure it works for you guys. Because that's really what we want to do. We want to make sure that everything works for your guys' flow and helps with your work. So feedback providers are preventative measures for errors and stuff. But however, we know errors are always going to be inevitable. It's kind of the next evolution of assistance in the shell, where feedback providers are PowerShell modules that subscribe to the iFeedback provider interface, which is a new interface that gives the error message to the subscribers of that in order to then respond with a suggestion after a particular error code. So in a nutshell, I know it's hard to see. I'll go to another slide, but say you don't have a command installed. This feedback provider would try to suggest to you what commands you do have installed in case you might have mistyped it or something. And I'll be demoing this too, so don't worry about that. But we want to make this an extensible model for folks that they can build feedback providers for, say, they have a module that users typically run into an error, and they want to give a suggestion for that error. And so this triggers right now after an error is run and shows a nice UI to give you a suggestion on how you can best recover from your error. We're very passionate about the speed of recovering from errors in the console. Nobody likes errors. Errors suck. Big red blob of text. It's no fun. So we want to help enhance that experience that way. And so currently we have one built-in one that suggests kind of the installed commands, the example I was just giving earlier. You see that as a general suggestion. And like I said, lots of development coming soon in the future. This is currently available in the latest preview of PowerShell 7.4. It came out in 7.4 Preview 2 about a month ago, and we're still working on improvements, and we hope to share some more improvements in the next previews up to GA. And so let me just hop over here to PowerShell Preview here. Oh, if it'll load. Every time I stop the presentation, it just likes to freeze for a second there. So let's first do this, get experimental feature. Number of experimental features. If you aren't familiar with experimental features, these are a number of features that we post in previews to kind of get feedback, get early feedback before we implement them into the stable version of PowerShell. I'm not going to be talking about all of them today, but I do want to call out that the PS feedback provider is enabled here. You're going to have to enable this in order to utilize this. This is kind of a successor for the PS command not found suggestion, which did something similar. However, the UI was not particularly appealing, and it was not built for extensibility. And so extensibility is really what we wanted to add with this. So now if I do also show this get PS subsystem, there's a new PowerShell subsystem called feedback provider, similar to the command predictor. Right now, the only implementation is the general one that I'll be showing in a second here, but wanted to call that out as a new thing we're adding around that. So it's pretty simple. So let's say I fat finger something, child item. I forget the I. Oh, did I get child? Something like that. There we go. So this is the feedback provider working in action. So you'll see there's three aspects of it. The feedback provider source, the name of the source. Right now, this is a general one focused at commands you have installed. Ideally, we do want to expand this one to say packages that are available in the PowerShell gallery or potentially winget. Those are kind of the applications we're looking for. And then you'll kind of see a description of it and then the suggestion. And one thing that's not currently implemented, but what we want to do is actually have this tied into predictors, where right now in my cursor, you'll see the correct spelling of get child item already there. So all you have to do then is just to press the right arrow key, accept it, and then go on with your day. So it's a very quick recovery path for feedback providers that way. And so one thing we'll show, I don't have a way to show this right now, but want to show off kind of what it looks like when you have multiple feedback providers and other ways this may look. And so this example here shows, I'm trying to run up just a simple Python script, but I don't have Python installed. And so you'll see the general one trigger and say, hey, the most similar commands are Python, Python 2, Python 3 that this machine has installed, but you may not have it installed. And so that's not really helpful. And so we created another feedback provider called the command not found feedback provider. And this is very similar to the command not found, basically the exact same thing as the command not found experience you'll find in many Ubuntu Linux systems, where if you don't have a package installed, it will say, hey, sudo apt install Docker or sudo apt install kube control or whatever. And so this basically is that utilizes that kind of script and says, hey, if you are running PowerShell in Ubuntu, it will say, hey, you can install this with sudo apt install Python 3 or Python. And so it will kind of order it similarly to predictors, where it will be, this one may trigger first, but it also may not trigger. This one only triggers on the command not found exception, but other feedback providers can trigger on whatever error or exceptions that the feedback providers define. And so you can see there's a lot of opportunity here for creating feedback providers for lots of common errors, as well as kind of legacy. One thing we're looking at is kind of legacy commands that folks might be familiar with. We can then suggest, hey, you can also, this may not work here in this environment, but you can use this and it will give you the exact same thing. And so this kind of helps with the onboarding to PowerShell, so to speak, and maybe the particular system that you are on. And yeah, so let's see. Any questions on feedback providers at this time? You have a question?
In the example, the demo, the child item, there were 2 misspellings in it. Is that why it didn't trigger feedback provider? Is there a distance that it has to threshold?
Yeah, so we're currently improving the fuzzy matching of it. I believe it just uses fuzzy matching at this time, but we want to improve it a little bit more. Yeah, the question was around why it didn't trigger when it had 2 misspellings versus 1, and that might have just been a fluke. We have a little more improving and tweaking to go with the fuzzy matching that it currently uses. So, okay, and then let's see. So enhancements in the shell don't end there. There's lots of really cool things you can do with PS readline. We talked about this in the state of the shell, PS readline key handlers. So key handlers are a great way to enhance your experience. You can now bind functions to a particular chord, so you can quickly just do some operations without having to type everything out. You can just hit control and some kind of key. You can assign all this stuff. I'll go into the console and kind of demo some of this stuff too. There's a number of PS readline options you can use. Of course, PS style is great for changing colors to best fit your needs and your preference. There's also PS default parameter values, so you can have this default give parameter values for some commands, for some defaulted commands. We also have this really cool sample profile in the PS readline module that you install that you can check out here. So let me show you a little bit about that. So you can see all the different PS readline key handlers. If you do just get PS readline key handlers, there's a bunch of bound ones, and unbound ones. So you can find those if you do bound. These ones are bound by default. And then you can also do unbound, which is a number of other unbound operations, such as repeat search, say search forward, next suggestion. These ones are for prediction. So if you want to tab through, say, suggestions in inline, you can do so if you bind this key. There's a number of other completion functions that you can use for the editing experience. There's too many to go through today, but I suggest you guys check that out. We also have a great doc page that we published recently on using PS readline key handlers. We talked about this earlier, but we also found a way to work around the Alt key being missing on Mac. So now you can have it in parity with your Windows machine, which is pretty awesome. So definitely go check that out. And then what was the other thing I was going to show off? Hang on, I got to go back to my slides real quick. Oh, the sample profile. So this is pretty cool. So in just the module, you can't see that, but in the folder where the module installs, there's a sample PS readline profile that has a number of really cool examples that you can use for binding and unbinding a bunch of different keys. There's some descriptive examples about this that are pretty helpful, and one I like that I have already in my profile that I like to use a lot is the smart brackets. So if I type an open bracket, it will automatically type the closing bracket, and then if I try to close it, it will just, oh, wrong key, it will just go to the next cursor, so it won't write it twice. I personally like that. You can build all sorts of really cool ones. Also completers that you can do. So if you want to shorthand, say git commit with just git cmt, it will do that there. There's an example in that sample profile as well. So there's lots of enhancements in the shell that you can do. It's just kind of discovering what fits for you and what best works with your workflow. And I think that is kind of it. I'm towards the end. I wanted to leave a bunch of time for questions. Does anyone have any questions about anything we've talked about here? Yes? Yeah, here it is. History save path. So you can find it right here.
One thing I want to note for that too is that one of your other PS readline options is you can have providers for like scrubbing your commands. So like you put a plain text key or something in there, you can have something in there that won't save the history if you use like -8 key or something.
Yeah, so there is already like kind of scrubbing enabled so that if it sees something like password or login, I forget, like token I think is another one. We have the kind of list documented in our docs. That won't be saved. So yes, we are aware that could lead to issues. So good call out. Thank you, Justin. Well, so that's definitely a big request for having a ChatGPT or an OpenAI predictor, right? The problem is we have a pretty strict timeout for predictors that in order to reduce the disruption to your experience, we have a 20 millisecond timeout. So predictors have to return a result within 20 milliseconds before we render, or just ignore it. And so if we go over that, it's going to lag your interactive experience. And so you can't do that currently if you're trying to call off box to a large language model like ChatGPT or something like that. It's still something we're exploring. We have a few ideas around that, but nothing concrete. Cool. Well, if that is it, just wanted to say thank you, and we love hearing from you. My Twitter and the PowerShell team's Twitter, you can reach out to us on GitHub. We love getting feedback on GitHub on our PS readline repo. So any issues or questions you have there, we triage weekly and always keep an eye on it throughout the week. So yeah, thank you very much for coming, and